So next up, we have Dichabe Lebotse, founder of Atlechang Accounting Services, an accomplished financial professional with 18 years of experience. His roles include financial manager and financial director. He has led teams at developing financial tax strategies, managed multi-million rand budgets, a tax practitioner and business accountant with expertise in IFRS and general business compliance. An expert in that. So ladies and gentlemen, please let's put our hands together for Dichabe Lebotse. My brother, welcome. Come on, Toyando. Let's show him some love, man. Yeah. My brother, thank you so much for joining us. Over to you.
Dumela, how are we? This is termed a Masterclass on compliance management. And my role here today is just to, talk about the bread and butter issues of compliance, from a small business point of view. I've prepared a little slide. I don't know if it can be shown. Can it be shown? IT guys, can we do my presentation? Because I sort of need to follow it to talk about what I need to talk about. Like I said, my role is just to talk about bread and butter issues. What is compliance and why compliance is important, right? And what we talk about compliance, I think my brother here in Dubu was talking more from a legal point of view and mentioning a lot of the acts. But we as small businesses, when we talk about compliance, we're thinking about documents that we need to have prepared when you ask for funding, when you ask for credit, when you submit tendering and all that. So that's what compliance is. A little bit about me. I'm a founder of Atlechang Business Consulting. We are a firm in Johannesburg that employs about 22 people with another branch in Rustenburg, and we've been operating for 10 years. We are accountants in the main, tax specialists, business advisory. We do BEE consulting. And a lot of other services that come with that industry, right? Compliance management gets you opportunity ready. So when the opportunity comes, you need to be ready. And how do you become ready? You need to be compliant. There's many instances where we've had small businesses and opportunities here, they don't have a tax clearance, or they're not registered. The guy has been operating for 3, 4, 5 years, but the business is not registered, right? So you need to always make sure that you are ready for the opportunity when it comes. I was just looking when we're doing the judging here, the people that are pitching today, there's certain requirements that you need to have in order for you to pitch. That's being opportunity ready, right? If you didn't have that, you wouldn't have the privilege of pitching today. So that comes on a day-to-day, it comes on a weekly, it comes on a monthly with small businesses to say you need to be opportunity ready, and for you to be opportunity ready, you need to have these documents in place, right? And also a lot of the time we think that compliance is a once-off thing. Compliance is a recurring thing. Compliance is an annual thing. Anybody who owns a business or is a small business knows that your tax clearance needs to be renewed every year. Your BE needs to be renewed, your CREDA certificates, and some of the things that I'll talk about as I go through my presentation. Those are not once off. You don't just do it once and then it's done. It needs to be looked at annually. You need to make sure that you adhere, you update, and so that it can be renewed for the new year. So these are some of the things I'm going to talk about. SARS. SARS is a big compliance stakeholder, CIPC, Compensation Commission. I'll talk a little bit about that. Department of Labor, the different banks and what their needs are. There's also some compliance that's industry specific. It depends on which industry you're in to get certain accreditation for the industry that you operate in. Or, it just gives integrity to your business. If you say, I'm in construction and I've got a level 4, level 5 CIDB, it brings some sort of integrity to your business. So SARS introduced a couple of years ago, which they didn't have in the past, something called SARS representative, a public officer, where you need to, so what they actually wanted to do is have somebody that's in a line of communication from SARS and the business, and that's most of the time the director of the business, right? So if there's more than one director in the business, one of them needs to be chosen as a public officer or a SARS representative. And what that includes is they'll request for a picture of you because they need to know who they're talking to. They called it a selfie, where you hold a piece of paper to say, please update my records and stuff like that. So that's become very important in the past. It's been growing that you can't really interact with SARS anymore if there's no chosen public representative or public officer in your business. So that's very important for small businesses to know. Tax clearance is a big requirement. Whenever you submit for work, you are tendering, you're applying for credit, you need to have a tax clearance. And the main reason for that is you don't want to give business to somebody who's not fulfilling their responsibilities with the state, right? Whenever someone is liquidated or goes through a liquidation process, SARS takes key. SARS is the number one to be paid before any other creditors. So you need to make sure that in any situation that you are liquidated or unable to pay your dues, we don't want a situation where now SARS is going to come and take our responsibilities when we're the one that gave you the money. And that's one of the reasons why you need to be tax compliant. In order to be tax compliant, you need to submit as they are due some of the taxes that you're registered with. Every business in South Africa will have an income tax number. That's base. So if you have a registered business, you have a tax number, income tax number. And what does that mean? Why do you have an income tax number? That tax number is linked to your business, and that's how you let SARS know what your profitability for the year is, what have you done, are there any liabilities that are due to SARS. So one income tax is submitted from 6 months after your year end. So if most year ends in South Africa are February, the end of February, so from the 1st of September, you can then submit your financials to SARS to say, this is how I've performed, this is the turnover I've done, these are the expenses I've incurred, and this is the profit that I've made. And because of that, I owe 27% to SARS, or I've made a loss. So a lot of the mistakes that entrepreneurs also make is you think if you made a loss, you don't need to submit. Or if you're not trading, you don't need to submit. That's a myth. You always need to submit. The lady asked a question earlier to say, do you still need to submit if you've deregistered? That's another mistake that small businesses do, is you deregister at CIPC, but you forget to let SARS know that the business is deregistered. So when we say deregistration, we are saying you deregister at CIPC, and you still need to let SARS know that you are deregistered. If you don't do that, then they expect you to do a submission every year. Provisional taxes are estimates that we do every 6 months. So the first 6 months of the year, you do an estimate to say, this is how I've performed on the first half of the year. I foresee that I will make a profit or I will make a loss, and you sort of reduce your tax obligation. Let me pay something, half of what I'm supposed to pay, so that by the end of the year, it's not a big amount that I'm not going to be able to afford, right? So that's the first provisional tax. The second provisional tax you do at year end, on the day, well, it is due on the day of your year end. You've had 11, 12 months of performance. You now have a clearer picture of what your financial situation is. Your income statement is telling you whether you're making profits or losses, and you need to then disclose that to SARS. Those are very important returns that needs to be done to SARS in order for you to become compliant. The third one is VAT. VAT, depending on the size of your business, you are required to register for VAT. Compulsory VAT registration is when your turnover is R1 million or more. However, you can still do voluntary registration. Voluntary registration is at your discretion. If there's a requirement for you to to register for VAT because maybe the client requires it, or you want to claim back the 15% that you spend, you can then register at your own accord. When you do, then you need to bi-monthly submit your returns to SARS to say, these are my input, this is my input tax or input VAT, and this is my output. That works on an offset. And if one is more than the other, you either owe or you are owed by SARS the VAT. The key is to, if you know that you're making money, is when you owe SARS. So if SARS owes you, it means your expenses were more than your sales. So it's not always a bad thing to owe SARS, right? It's just that sometimes we forget as small businesses, we think that 15% is your money. And then when SARS comes knocking and saying, please pay, we have used the money. So always think, if you are VAT registered, always think that that 15% is not mine, it belongs to SARS. The last one is pay as you earn under tax clearance. Pay as you earn is when you have employed people, you issue a pay slip to your employees on a monthly basis. Therein, depending on the threshold of their income, you deduct pay as you earn, and you have to pay that every month by the 7th to SARS. Do not make the mistake of deducting from your employees and not paying to SARS, because then you have got problems with your employee and with SARS. So please make sure when you do deduct that you pay over the responsibilities to SARS. Financial statements, so I talked about income tax. 6 months after your financial year, you need to submit financial statements to SARS, or from 6 months, because that tells SARS about your financial position. The balance sheet, some people call it a statement of financial position. I call it a balance sheet because I think I'm old school. That tells SARS about your assets and liabilities and the equity that's in your business. Statement of comprehensive income or income statement, that tells SARS about turnover that you've made, how much money you've made, and expenses that you've incurred, and are you profitable, right? So the financial statements are very important because that's where you get your tax liabilities from. CIPC, also a very important stakeholder for compliance. In order to formalize your business, you have to register it, right? And CIPC is where the registration happens. You give your business a name, you register, and you tell the CIPC who the directors are in that business. It can be one director, it can be 10 directors, just depends on the agreements that you have with your partners. So the company registration document will have a number, which is a registration number. It will have a name that you have chosen, and it will list who the directors are with their ID numbers and their addresses. B, affidavit, depending also on the size of your business. If your turnover is 50 million rand or less and you still consider SME, and you're 100% black owned, you can just do a B affidavit. CIPC issues some of those, or you can just get a template, go to the police station, and get a commissioner of oath to sign it. Early this year, there was CIPC introduced mass deregistration of companies, and there was a whole warning that came about 3 to 6 months before that, where CIPC is saying, if you haven't submitted your annual returns, please make sure you submit, because you're going to be deregistered. And of course, people don't listen, and there was a mass deregistration of companies. They gave a number, I just don't remember what the number is, but a lot of people were deregistered, even with some trading businesses, just because of an oversight that you are supposed to submit your annual returns every year. You haven't done it for whatever reason. Now you are deregistered. For the re-registration to happen, it takes a long time, it's costly, and it's something that you could have avoided, right? So this is something to take note. It's a simple thing, but if you don't do it, the company can get deregistered. So please, small business owners, take heed of this and make sure that your annual returns are submitted. They are done annually on the anniversary of your business. So if your business was registered on the 20th of July, 2023, your annual returns will be due from today and for 30 days. So you've got 30 days before they start penalizing you and giving you penalties. So, these are some of the things, a small business that eat chow at our profits, because we don't do things when they're due, we don't pay SARS when it's due, and before you know it, you then have penalties that you don't really need. So make sure that if you either put in a calendar or you put somewhere that you know what important dates there are for you to do submissions to avoid penalties and interest. Also, something that's very recent that was introduced early this year is beneficial ownership at CIPC. It started as an option, but has now become compulsory. The layman's definition of beneficial ownership is that CIPC wants to know who the true owners of the business are, right? When close corporations were still registered, you used to, when you list directors, it would say Dichabe Lebotse is a 51% shareholder of this company. Now, since we're now working with PTY Limited, that listing is no longer on the document. And you have a situation where I can be a director, but not a shareholder. Or someone can be a shareholder, but not a director. So CIPC has become blind on who the true owners of those businesses are. So they've now reversed it and introduced beneficial ownership, which is a compulsory declaration every year to say, we want to know who the true owners are. Who are the owners of the business? So if you say this business is T or this business is Sasol, whoever, who are your owners? Make sense? Another important one which comes up a lot is QOIDA, the Compensation Commissioner. So QOIDA stands for Compensation for Occupational Injuries and Diseases Act. So what it is layman terms, is an insurance for if an employee gets injured at work, they can then claim from the Compensation Commissioner for those injuries or for the hospital costs and all that. So when you submit tendering a lot or when you submit for work, that is a requirement. So make sure that you disclose properly. A lot of people also make the mistake here to say, you've got 10 employees, you know that your salary bill is 100,000 a month, and then you go and say, no, I've only employed one person who I'm paying 5,000 a month, right? And then someone gets injured, QOIDA comes back and says, but you said you have one employee. How do you now expect us to pay for the 10 employees that you have? So sometimes fiddling with the truth can come back to bite us. Make sure that you disclose proper information to SARS, to CIPC, and to the Compensation Commissioner. When you've done that, you get a letter of good standing, also renewed every year. It's valid for 12 months from the 1st of May to the 30th of April every year. Make sure that you are aware of this and you do this on an annual basis. Department of Labor, declaration of employees, also some sort of insurance that if your employees are ever out of work, because you've been deducting UIF from them, they can go to Department of Labor and claim for UIF. So make sure that you deduct. The requirement for UIF is 1% is deducted from the employee and 1% is contributed by the employer from your salary towards UIF. So if a lot of companies would pay UIF via SARS and forget to do the declaration at CIPC. So make sure that even though you pay UIF at SARS, you declare all the employees and their responsibilities at UIF, Department of Labor. The banks and other funders. So, to scale up your business, sometimes you need to go ask for credit. Sometimes you need to go ask for funding, right? Financial statements and current management accounts, if you deal with the banks, they'll ask for that. Make sure that your financial statements are recent. Make sure that your management accounts are recent. Another thing that comes a lot, which I know the banks frown upon, is a shareholder's loan account. When you start a business, you fund the business from your own monies, as people have mentioned here, and as a result, the business owes you that money when it's starting to perform, right? But funders look at it in another way, because what it's saying is that you are asking for money to basically pay yourself. So that shareholder's loan should try and be as minimum as possible. Make sure that you're profitable. Don't just submit financial statements for the sake of financial statements. You need to make sure that financial statements talk to what you're trying to do, right? It's pointless going to the bank and saying, I need money, and you submit financial statement, but you are basically insolvent because your liabilities are more than your assets. Because those are the tests that the banks do. They go then and check, okay, what is his balance sheet saying? Does he have proper assets? Does he have liabilities? Maybe you are declined because you are insolvent or you're not liquid. Make sure that your cash flow management is in order, right? FICA is a requirement by the banks. Make sure that your FICA updates are regular and you don't find yourself wanting. For small businesses, for SMMEs, which I think it's unfair, and I'm sorry to say that with the banks here, is that when you apply for credit for your business, they always want to know about you as a director. So they'll do also a due diligence on yourself. You need to make sure that your credit record is clear. You need to submit your personal assets and liabilities. And the law says that those are two different entities. Your business is a different entity to yourself and should be looked at as such. But it's a situation that we're in, that in order for the funding to come through or for the credit to happen, you need to make sure that you are also clear. And it's not always the case, because as hustlers and small business owners, we sometimes have to get money in different places, and that affects your credit record, right? But I think that's something that's going to change in the past. I hope so. Another one that I don't like, which funders insist on, is signing surety. So when you sign surety, you're basically saying that the business is receiving funding, but if the business cannot be able to pay it, I take the debt personally as my responsibility. So you need to make sure that you do that, but you do that with caution. Don't find yourself putting your house as surety, and then the business goes down and your life falls apart. Make sure that you always read those documents and you understand what you're signing for, right? Lastly, I'm just industry-specific compliance. I don't know, can I get by a show of hands who's in construction? So in construction, you would need to, to bring some integrity to your business, get accredited with CIDB. CIDB grading comes from level 1 to level 9, and that's dependent on a lot of factors. How big a job have you done? What is your asset balance? Or how much are your assets worth? What's your turnover in your business? There's certain documents that you need to sign. You need to get an appointment letter. You need to get a completion letter to make sure that you've actually done that work, right? So CIDB is for construction. NCCA is for guys in the cleaning industry. They need to, National Cleaners Corporation Act or something like that. And that star there is the Tourism Grading Council. My brother who was talking about having accommodation, that's where you get your starring. If you book a place, a lot of the time you want to know, is it a 1-star, 2-star, 3-star, 5-star? So the Tourism Grading Council does that grading to, they of course have to do a due diligence and make sure that a 3-star place needs to meet these requirements, a 5-star place needs to meet these requirements. So make sure that you understand them, and you understand in the industry that you're in what you need to do. Is it clear? Questions?
Ndad Masiari. Thank you for the presentation. You have mentioned a lot of jargons and information that I've been doing entrepreneurship for over 10 years, but some of the things are new. So, not knowing if the presentation that you have presented to us is available via email through T, or if we need to engage with you after this, during networking. So I'm kindly asking if that presentation can be sent to us, because some of the things that you were saying there, I've made mistakes a lot, Daroviko.
Yeah, the presentation is with T, so it's at their discretion if they want to share it. I'm okay with it as the author of it. It's at their discretion, but after this, during the networking session, we can always engage. Are there any other questions? One more question? Have I scared you? One more question?
Yeah, the gentleman this one is from the back, it's going to be interesting. Please can we give the mic to this gentleman, the last question? Please can you stand up, sir? Thank you. All right, let's try the other one.
There's another one behind you.
Yeah, let's try that other one.
Thank you for the presentation. I think that was very wonderful. Irrespective of the jargons, I'm sure the others will learn when you share the presentation. Coming from the bank, you know, as you mentioned, you felt there's a bit of an unfairness where we apply. But obviously, there's regulations, that's why you're here. But what I wanted to ask is mainly the challenges that we're currently facing, especially with most of the accountants. We see some eventually getting written off in our books because they always prepare books for SARS and then books for the bank. You know, apparently accountants are also good in the kitchen. They like cooking their books. You know, do we see that being reduced over time? Because we really want transparency throughout. You know, we don't want our entrepreneurs here walking out with double how do I say it? Not so transparent in other places where they're non-compliant, but also trying to be compliant when they come to the bank. Do we see that being reduced over time? Because we really want transparency across the board.
Yeah, 100% agreed. Yeah, I don't know about the cooking. I'll reserve my comment there. But 100% agree. I think, you know, what needs to happen, you need to find accountants that are registered with associations that dictate their code of ethics, right? There's a lot of associations, the SICA, the SIPA, the CYBA, that ensures that when you're an accountant, there's certain rules that you need to abide by. As people, we know people will always break the rules. That is being clamped upon a lot now with the introduction of a lot of regulations that are coming in to make sure that, you know, there's one set, and that set is true. There's no set for a set for SARS and a set for the bank, right? As to how soon, I don't know. I think it's at the accountant's discretion to ensure that they are reliable. They put out proper information out there, and they don't cook the books. Do we take more questions, or two is fine?
Two is fine for now. I think you're still around. So we will, just for time, apologies, gentlemen, for time, we'll have to cut this presentation and move on with the program. You're still here, sir? Yes. Yeah. So
Yes, yes.
During the networking session, we'll have an opportunity to engage the man who's talking, not talking, I'm not talking. Fantastic. Please just give him a round of applause for coming. Mr. Dichabe, this is a gift from T. Once again, everything that is inside is from our exhibitors who are here. What I'd like you to do, my brother, I'll hold this for you. Yeah. Please, can you look straight into that camera? Give us your best smile. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for Mr. Dichabe.